It's great to see the fantastic Film Festival of Australia is about to occur from the 24th of April to the 16th of May in Melbourne and Sydney. And it's my great pleasure, as always, to talk to the artistic director of the fantastic film festival, Hudson Sowada. Hudson, welcome again to Movie Metropolis.
G'day, Peter. Great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Always good to talk to you. And again, such a diverse program. I notice you've mentioned that there are 27 films all up. As always, what are the challenges in finding the appropriate films for this year's festival?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, each year has different unique kind of challenges that come in with putting together a program. There's the artistic element of like, what are we trying to say, or what kind of voices do we want to showcase? What do we want the program to kind of mean, which are always quite fun to work together with the team on and to kind of come up with our approach with this year. And I mean, a big focus this year is and based off some of the responses and the engagement we've had on previous years is to really lean in to the fun and over the top and energetic and vibrant spirit this year. So that's a kind of guiding principle of the films within the lineup. They're all have a certain kind of energy or intensity or vibrancy that we thought would really resonate with people and certainly resonated with us. So that's certainly what we're trying to put out into the world this year, that sort of approach. And then there's a lot. I'm just trying to think of ch how to respond to other challenges. I mean, there's always the challenge that we have so many festivals in Melbourne and Sydney and in Australia, and there's always like I guess a jovial rivalry between the festivals, bidding against movies and pushing and throwing your weight around to try and get the films that you really want to get, which is always, part of the game. So it's we're all in good spirits though, because we all go to each other's events and, it's part of a bigger community kind of spirit. But that's always, a fun battle to fight to make sure you have the best of the best. So we're really pleased with where we've landed on this year.
Okay, well done on that. And I'm just going to highlight some films that stood out to me, and then I'll get you to talk about some any
Absolutely.
others I don't mention. But the opening night film looks like a really interesting one called Hell of a Summer.
Yeah, hell of a summer we're kicking things off with this year. It's a fantastic throwback to classic slashes of the 80s and 90s. And it's based in a summer camp with teenagers who are violently murdered by a masked killer. I mean, it's exactly what you would expect that film called Hell of a Summer to be like. But the thing that we found super compelling about the project is that it's directed by Finn Wolfhard of Stranger Things fame and Billy Brook, who was in the new Ghostbusters movie as well. But they're both extremely young filmmakers, early 20s. And it gives the film a really distinct energy and propulsion and enthusiasm. And it has this great charm and charisma and yeah, this kind of joyfulness to it that a young voice can really bring to a project. So the film is just hilarious. It's violent. It's over the top, but it's really just a party as well. It's going to be so fun to watch that film with an audience and go through all the classic horror motions, but with a really contemporary. I hate to say it, but a bit of a Zoomer edge to it. So it's really. It got some fun qualities to it, which we're really excited to bring to kick things off this year.
Oh, excellent. Good to start a film festival with a bang. And it looks like there'll be lots of mayhem on screen. So
Absolutely.
sounds like
Absolutely.
fun. All
Yeah.
right. Now, the closing night film is one called Hard Boiled.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hard Boiled is arguably one of the greatest action films ever produced. It has some of the most propulsive cinematography and choreography and fight sequences, and it's just is a nonstop chaos from start to finish. And it's really a true act of uh, action film masterpiece, really, at the end of the day. It really is a sight to behold. So, to kind of lean in again to the chaos of the film, we are working with one of the best improvisational jazz bands in Australia called the Rookies, who are performing live against the classic kind of jazz and percussion soundtrack of the film. So they're going to perform against the original score, and it's going to be really quite a spectacle in the cinema. The chaos of a four-piece jazz band playing against the explosive action and bombastic soundtrack already in the film. It really is, yeah, going to be quite the experience. And in Sydney, we're thrilled to be presenting the film on a 35 millimeter print that we brought in as well. So it's going to be quite the show.
It will, and of course I do know the film. It's a John Woo film from the early '90s, and I'm really glad you're playing it, and especially in a 35 mil print. Yeah.
Yeah, John Woo is one of the greats, and this is arguably his magnum opus. And yeah, I think it's right. It's one of those films that is always regarded as a classic, but often been hard to pin down. And I think it's ready to be rediscovered by a new audience, but also re-watched or re-engaged with from those who are familiar with it. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, well done on that. That sounds like a great screening. Now, I'm so pleased that you're doing a retrospective on Lynn Ramsay films. I mean, I love her films. Ratcatcher, Morven Caller. Um, we need to talk about Kevin, which is such a remarkable film, and You Were Never Really Here. Um, are you also showing restored prints of those films?
Yes. So, I mean, Lynn Ramsey is one of the most uncompromising voices in all of cinema. And over her 25-year career, she's produced some of the most raw, lyrical, unflinching, and profound cinema. But all of her films are deeply human as well. Through all the intensity, there's a real human element to it that not many other filmmakers can really capture.
Hmm.
And we're thrilled to present her four films back in cinema. Ratcatcher will be screening in a new 4K restoration. Same with You Were Never Really Here is also the premiere of the 4K restoration as well. So for those who perhaps haven't explored the breadth of her catalog, it really is no better chance than to watch them in the cinema for the festival. So we're thrilled to be presenting her works at the event this year.
Oh, well done on that. I'm so pleased that you're doing that. And a film that struck me, which sounded really interesting, is a film called Maldoror.
Yeah, that is an absolute one of the highlights of the program, absolutely. And uh, I think it's gone under a few people's radar, but it's a 3 hour long French procedural, essentially crime story that follows a young up and coming police officer who was trying to take down a serial killing and a pedophile ring in France, and is set up against all this opposition, whether it's from his upbringing and his family or the police force itself, and obviously the criminals too. But he puts his whole life aside to solve this case, and things, spiral out of his control as his life kind of tumbles away beside him as he's trying to bring about justice. And it really has that epic journey of somebody's life, like The Godfather. Not that this is The Godfather, but has that journey that you go through over such a long period to see the wedding and then the aftermath, and then everything start to kind of disintegrate around him as he's so focused on this one goal. And it truly is an epic journey and incredibly intense and emotional and powerful. So yeah, it's a very special film.
Sounds good. French procedural. Excellent, excellent to hear. I'm glad to see you've got some Australian films in there, including one called A Grand Mockery, which sounds really interesting.
Yeah, we have four Australian feature films in the program. Well, five Australian feature films in the program this year. Grand Mockery is such an exciting piece of underground Australian filmmaking that has just been made, and it really captures the distinct feeling of slowly losing your marbles. You know, that the film feels while you're watching it that you're slowly losing grip on reality as the lead character drips in and out of heavily alcoholism and substance abuse, and his kind of perception of the world around him slowly starts to fade away. And it has a really strange, surreal quality to it. It's uh, yeah, a really powerful and really unique piece of Australian cinema, and we're thrilled to have the directors in Melbourne and Sydney for a Q&A of that film,
Ex
Grand Mockery.
Excellent to hear that, and it's always good to have filmmakers involved, if possible, with the screening. So well done. Now, I always like talking about the true horror that is part of the Fantastic Film Festival, and you probably know where I'm going with this, with the nude screening. And this year, you've got Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, a
Yeah,
funny satire, which I don't know if it deserves or not a nude screening or not.
I don't know why I haven't seen you at any of these screenings yet. Always the biggest fan, but I've never seen you in there. But maybe this year we can get you down.
Oh, the
But
horror.
yeah. So yeah, the nude screening is back. We're screening Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. And for the uninitiated, it's a screening where you attend fully naked. You come to the cinema with your clothes on, but you take all your clothes off to watch the movie, and it has quickly become one of the most popular screenings. There's something about sitting in a room full of naked people, which is quite liberating as well. And cinema is great. It's air conditioned. It's a bring your own towel situation as well, so it's always very hygienic. But this would be one of our 10th screenings like this between Melbourne and Sydney, and they've always been, incredibly popular and respectful. So yeah, it's always interesting to try and find the right film for these screenings. It's got to be like light-hearted enough because it's quite a vulnerable position you're asking people to participate in, and it can't it has to kind of fit a few different categories. And international and Austin Powers, I think, is going to be a really fun way to watch the film in the nude.
It is, I'm sure. He said guardedly, but
Take my word for it. Yeah, it's great.
oh well, if you don't like the nudity, you can always like Burt Bacharach's music. So there you
Yeah,
go.
that's true. That's true.
All right, now a film that really struck me, an animation called Spermageddon. Spermageddon.
Spermageddon
Yep.
is a it really is. I can't believe this film exists. First of all, it's an animated film that follows the anthropomorphic lives of sperm. They're given characters and personalities and stories, and they're all preparing for their destiny. To do what sperm do. And one part of the story is the lives of the sperm who were getting ready for this young boy is losing his virginity, which is the spermageddon. And so there's that story going on one side, and then there's this coming of age story of this young boy who's kind of like yeah, going through a coming of age moment, losing his virginity, and both of those stories play out surprisingly sincerely. And what the result is kind of like this surreal adventure film that's very quite obviously crass and ridiculous, but it's also a musical. And it's really is an unhinged kind of project, almost like the most strange vision of Inside Out you could possibly imagine. But it plays it so straight and so sincerely, and really, it's not trying to be like a sausage party where it's like intentionally gross. It really plays it in quite a in a fun, tongue-in-cheek, silly way, but you can see that the filmmakers have some intent and something interesting to say there too. So Spermageddon, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that film with an audience.
It would be, and yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. I was thinking, I was reading the plot line that it could have been paired with Woody Allen's film, Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex.
Yes, I think that would be an interesting and complicated double feature for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure it would. All right. Now, another film that struck me is I'm so glad you're screening Summerfield, an Australian film from the 70s, which I have some memories of. It's a film that has been somewhat ignored.
Absolutely. It really is a truly missed piece of great Australian filmmaking. It's the writer of Picnic at Hanging Rock, their follow-up project, so it captures a similar ethereal, wispy Australian Gothic quality, but it follows a teacher who is going to a remote beach town to take over a teaching role, and then he discovers that his predecessor's gone missing. So the film is him unraveling the secrets of the town, trying to uncover what happened to his predecessor, and he meets a strange family in the titular Summerfield estate. And as he gets deeper into the mystery, some dark secrets start to unravel.
Mm.
So it really is a really a stunning piece of atmospheric cinema, and the mystery at its core is really executed in such a fascinating way. The last 10 minutes are still so shocking to this day, just completely blindsides you where the film goes and turns the whole thing on its head in a really quite for the time, 50 years later, it remains just as shocking as it does today. So Summerfield, we're thrilled to be presenting the premiere of the 2K restoration of the film at
Oh,
this year's event.
excellent. I'm so glad you're playing it. To me, it sounds like almost a follow-up to Wake in Fright, in some
In
connections
many
there.
ways,
Yeah.
yeah. It's almost like it came out a year after The Wicker Man, and it's a
Ah,
very similar tone. It's like the Australian's answer to The Wicker Man, a small town with secrets and an outsider coming to, that gets caught up in this in what's happening in this community. So
yeah.
it's very similar to that. But yeah, absolutely of that time and energy of Wake and Fright for sure.
Okay, another film that struck me, especially because Crispin Glover is in it, is a film called Mr. K.
Yeah, Mr. K is a fascinating piece of almost like Kafkaesque um, uh, storytelling, and it follows Crispin as he's a magician who has to stay a night in this strange hotel, but then he realizes that the next day that there's the corridor that he went to his room for has changed, the layout of the hotel's changed, and he can't find the exit. And then as the story goes on, he realizes that there's huge communities of people who are stuck in this hotel and have made lives out of being trapped in this place and conforming to the societal expectations of this hotel world. And Crispin comes in as an outsider and is trying to disrupt and kind of start a rebellion within the hotel to find an escape. And then through that story, it becomes quite surreal and strange as the true nature of the hotel starts to reveal itself. It's got you could kind of look at elements of Severance in there as well, of conformity and this idea of a hostile environment that you're forced to kind of inhabit, and the structures of power that force people to perhaps do things consciously and unconsciously that are problematic. So yeah, it's a really interesting piece of cinema, and we're great to have Crispin playing this year as a truly uh, fantastic outsider artist in his own right as well.
Excellent. Okay. A good diverse range of films as always. I notice you've got a special section called Umbrella Palooza, three films from Umbrella and Broly, who are also sponsors of Fantastic Film Festival.
That's right. So Umbrella Entertainment, one of our major partners this year. They were working with them on a mind-bending triple feature, which is it's programmed around the idea of digital nightmares. They're three films that explore our relationship with technology, the ghosts in the machine, and perhaps how our world may change or the way that people picture our relationship with technology in film is kind of the theme of this year's program. So we're starting off with the screening of Cypher from the director of Splice and Cube, a really underrated piece of science fiction cinema. And yeah, it really is a really underrated piece, and we're thrilled to be starting the marathon with that. Then we have Richard Stanley's sex-filled industrial rock, cyberpunk, post-apocalyptic extravaganza that is Hardware, the 4K restoration. It's the first screening of the 4K restoration, and it really looks amazing. And the tone and the energy and the intensity is really wonderful. It's like a kind of like a little bit of Terminator, a little bit of Blade Runner, but feels really dirty and like it was made by somebody who's made a million music videos. So the cinematography and the aesthetics and the texture is just amazing. So we're screening Hardware and then closing off with Pulse, one of the greatest J horrors of the time, made in 2001, and it explores our relationship with the internet and the loneliness that perhaps comes out of that relationship almost a decade before social media was on the scene. So it was really quite ahead of its time in showcasing how the internet age perhaps can take us apart rather than bring us together. And in between those three films, we have a paranormal investigator coming in to do a little talk about their work. And then we are doing some giveaways of Blu-rays and some other academics coming in to talk about the works too. So it really is a full
Mm.
day at the cinema, offering quite a descent into madness there. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, it sounds terrific. Yeah. Oh, really fascinating stuff. Another film that struck me was a Chinese film, Escape from the 21st Century.
Yeah, I mean, Escape from the 21st Century is almost like China's answer to Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's massive, over the top, martial arts focused, like bombastic storytelling. It's vibrant and like really big ideas, and just the cinematography and the spectacle of it is all at 11. It just is really a delight. But the synopsis is just too like the plot is too good. It's three teenage boys fall in a vat of acid, and whenever they sneeze, they go 20 years into the future. It's just like so good. It's such a fun idea, and they really use that plot device to really go to some crazy places. So it's a lot of fun.
It's sort of like the Hot Tub Time Machine, sort of revisited in a way. So I get
Yeah,
it.
yeah, but it's kind of has that like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, that
Ah,
animation mixed with live action, and then yeah, like the chaos of it all in between. So it's a really wild film, a lot of fun.
okay. Sounds good. And I'll mention one other, and then I'll get you to talk about a few others that you want to highlight. But I like the French filmmaker Noémie Merlan. She makes some really interesting films, like Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and so on. Anyway, The Balconettes sounds very interesting.
Yeah, The Balconettes is a really great piece of genre filmmaking. It follows a group of friends who uh, mistakenly get involved in a crime, and the chaos that ensues with them trying to cover it up and go on with their lives. But at the core, the relationships between this group of friends is really the driving force, as their bond and connection draws them together and apart as they're trying to get their lives back on track after this crime is committed, which is just as hilarious as it is terrifying, but also bubbling under all of it is a very touched on social agenda and conversation about sexual liberties and freedoms of expression and friendship and societal expectations and all sorts of interesting commentary going on alongside, as well as just being visually beautiful and really quite unique piece of at the core of it. It's a horror film in many ways. So really interesting project, the Balconets that we're thrilled to host this year.
Okay, very good indeed. All right. Now, are there a couple of films that you want to mention, Hudson, that we haven't talked about so far?
Sure, yeah. One of my favorites this year is a film called The Sword of Silence, which
Ah,
is an Australian film and it's the world premiere. And it was shot over 4 years only on moonlit nights. And every time they would shoot a scene that would come back, the team would come back and decide what next scene would happen, each day. So it was really has a very strange rhythmic kind of flow to it as it doesn't follow traditional kind of storytelling beats. But the story itself is this fantasy narrative of this hooded figure crossing this countryside to deliver this kind of cursed object to a ethereal kind of a god-like figure. And it uses one of the most interesting parts of it. It uses the Australian outback, the uh, craggy, rolling mountains and the rock formations and the desert and all these rainforest type environments to turn a familiar landscape that we're all used to into a fantasy world. It's not like anything I've seen before. It's really, yeah, really interesting. So we're thrilled to have the director coming to both the Melbourne and Sydney screening for a Q&A. And then the other film I'd love to shout out is Heads or Fails, which is another French film and directed by the reigning kind of kings of trash cinema, Guilt and what was his other name? Anyway, that we screened their previous film, Mother Schmuckers, several years ago. It was our closing night, and their latest work, Heads or Fails, follows this young woman as she's down on her luck, trying to hustle and get her life back together, and just can't seem to get things right. And then she soon realizes that if she gambles, she can just not stop winning and just goes on this winning spree across France. And as this night kind of goes into strange and odd, takes her on strange and odd rides. Um, Tonally, it's kind of got that chaotic energy of the Sadfi brothers, uncut gems on the street running around causing mischief. It has the trash sensibilities of John Waters, that kind of that really great flair for oddball characters and cinema that you can kind of sense the sweat and smell it almost as well. And then also a little bit of Francis Ha sprinkled in there as well. It's kind of like the tasting notes I see with the film. So one of my favorites, Heads or Fails.
sounds
Yeah.
good. Excellent program by the looks of it, Hudson. And let's talk about website details. Obviously, it's on in Lido and Ritz cinemas. But tell me more.
Yeah, we're screening at the Lido and the Ritz and the Thornbury Picture House this year as well. Opening night is April 14th. So that's when we kick things off. Sorry, April 24th. Sorry, not 14th, 24th.
Right.
And then we're running until May 16th. And you can get tickets on our website if you just type in Fantastic Film Fest Australia or FFFA. And we're also very active on social media and Letterbox and all those places too. So we have some other announcements coming up soon. So make sure you stay tuned to those places for those updates.
Excellent stuff, Hudson. And that's the Fantastic Film Festival of Australia coming up 24th of April to the 16th of May. And I will ask you the question I always ask, as you probably know, seen anything else outside of the Fantastic Film Festival that impressed you?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is a great film that has just been announced at the Sydney Film Festival, Lesbian Space Princess. It is so good. A great piece of Australian animated cinema. And yeah, it's an awesome coming of age animation, adult animation that follows a young space princess on a quest to save her girlfriend from the clutches of the straight white Malians. It's like all very silly and fun, but it's got a great heart and personality, and you can really tell it's made with a lot of love and sincerity. Yeah. So, Lesbian Space Princess, certainly an Australian film to have on people's radar, as well as another project, We Bury the Dead, which I believe will be coming out later this year, starring Daisy Ridley and directed by Zach Hilditch, who made These Final Hours. Another really great piece of Australian post-apocalyptic almost cinema too. It's a kind of like a twist on a zombie film in a unique way. So keep an eye out for Lesbian Space Princess and We Bury the Dead coming out later this year.
Sounds like great recommendations to look out for. We've been speaking to Hudson Sowada, who's the artistic director of the Fantastic Film Festival of Australia. As always, Hudson, thanks so much for talking with me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Peter.
Okay, see you later.